and welcome to the September Q&A.
Hello. My goodness, we've been at our microphones a lot lately. Doesn't it feel like we're just,
It feels like an appendage of my body right
yeah,
now.
doesn't it?
Yes.
It is requiring me to have a lot of shirts.
Right. I own a million tops and you don't. And I don't know how that
No,
is. I don't know how that
I
is.
know. I have a funny thing about tops. I love to buy pants, and I'm willing to spend a lot of money on pants because pants you can wear repeatedly. I could wear the same pair of pants 3 times in a week and have a different outfit every time. But for some reason, tops feel, I have a hard time with them.
Hmm.
I'm not a
Yeah.
big blouse person. I like to wear a t-shirt, a tank top, a sweater, or a sweatshirt.
Yeah, you're in workout clothes a lot or baggy, shapeless sweatshirts. You do
Yes.
that a lot too. Well, we're on YouTube now and you're wearing a nice vivacious red. I think that's your
Yeah,
favorite color, red shirt.
I do like
Uh,
red.
yeah, good. And I haven't seen that one before.
That's because I've been trying out Newly, which is a really fun way to actually rent clothing for a month. And you can try things that you don't really feel like being committed to for a long time.
Oh, right. I forgot you do that. That sounds interesting. I
Kind of
wouldn't
fun.
want to, I wouldn't want to get attached. Like if there's something I really like, I wouldn't want to have to just send it back. So I prefer to own my clothes.
So as we often do, we usually begin these Q&As with a little bit of a continuation of a conversation that we start on social media. And the other day I was taking a bath, as I often do, although a lot less in the summertime. And there's a big spider in my tub. And I was like, well, what do I do? I
That's
don't like,
not, that's nothing to you, right?
it's nothing, it's really nothing to me. Like I don't want to kill a spider. And I just decided to be, get in the tub anyway. And the spider was just hanging out in the tub with me.
Yeah. See, okay. Exactly what I was thinking. That's nothing to you. I didn't think you'd actually take a bath with it sitting there, but
I know
yeah,
I,
I'm not
I
surprised. I'm not surprised.
I did contemplate it for a second, like, and then I was like, "Oh, screw it, whatever. It'll just crawl away." So I shared that, and I asked everybody who is afraid of spiders because it's such a common fear. And more than half of our community is definitely afraid of spiders. But if not spiders, what else is your biggest fear? So, do you know your biggest fear?
Well, I mean, I think there's like existential fears, and I think there's just
Simple fears.
yeah, and I don't know what everyone was answering to when I don't know what
Both.
everyone was responding to when you asked the question. I used to have a fear of spiders when I was growing up. When if I saw a spider, I definitely had like a visceral aversion to it. And then I saw the movie, gosh, it's an old movie now called Arachnophobia. And by the end of the movie, I was completely desensitized to spiders, and I have never had that visceral reaction to them again at all. They're
Interesting from
they're
the
just
movie.
another bug to me now. Yeah, I don't have any response at all because in the movie you're so overexposed to spiders. I couldn't believe it was a wonderful benefit of watching that movie. And I wonder how many other people had the same experience as I did. So I can't think of any other, fear in that category. I can't think of anything else.
That explains why I'm not afraid of spiders, because I have basically grown up living with them at summer camp, sleeping in old cabins and in the woods, and spiders are everywhere. So you're just not afraid of them if you live amongst them. So anyway, a lot of people are afraid of spiders, but a few people submitted some other funny, interesting things that they are deathly afraid of,
Okay.
that were surprising. Some were very expected.
Okay.
Uh, so we'll just go through a few for fun. One woman said algae growing on bridge pillars and having to touch algae to survive. Like, what a random fear, algae growing on bridge pillars.
The specificity of it is incredible, but also that she fears it.
I
Like
guess she probably had some scary experience when she was little swimming and like a creepy moss touched her leg. And
I wonder what she thought of our spirulina and chlorella episode. We're
that
like, eat
algae's
this
really
stuff. It's
good.
so good for you. Okay.
That stuff is the best, by the way. I still am on that every day. I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's great. I am too.
Anyway, oof, okay. Um, we actually had two people
Yeah.
say grasshoppers. Two
Okay.
people
I have
are
a I have,
really
I have
afraid of grasshoppers.
I have a crazy family story. My niece Monique, who you know and love, she's the one who's living in Spain right now. She always got herself into just hilarious situations. I don't know how this happened, but when she was in high school, they had a lizard in a science class I don't remember what they did with the lizard for a while, but at the end of the unit, the teacher, I think she was a senior, the teacher said, "Does anyone want to own the lizard?" And she was like, "I'll take it." So she took a lizard home. She had to frantically go to a pet store, like buy something for the lizard, find out what they eat, and apparently they eat grasshoppers. So she bought a bag of 100 grasshoppers.
Oh dear.
Okay. Later that night, they're in the kitchen, like cooking dinner, and they heard a grasshopper. So they're like, Monique said, "Oh no, my bag of grasshoppers must have opened." So she said to her sister, "I'm going to look for the grasshopper, run to my bedroom and get the bag. And like, we have to count how many grasshoppers are still in the bag." Her sister ran to the bedroom and came back and said, "The bag is empty."
Oh
The whole,
no.
the whole bag of 100 grasshoppers. I
Oh
feel
my
I feel
goodness.
sorry for the women who don't like grasshoppers and they have to hear this story right now. They were in the house and they said that night when they were all sleeping, there was just like this symphony of grasshoppers
I
all night
believe
long.
it.
Can
How'd they get rid of
you?
them?
I don't remember. It's the story is 10 years old now. I just remember
Wow.
laughing so hard I couldn't contain myself. That's all I remember about it. I'll get the details from her again.
Well, this one woman said she's afraid of them because you never know which way they're going to jump. Now imagine if 100 of them loose in your house.
It's
That's wild.
this is
That's a
so
crazy
funny.
story.
I know.
All right. So stink bugs, they just stink, but they're not too scary in my mind. Um,
These are a lot of bugs, algae
yeah,
and
let's get away
bugs.
from bugs.
Everyone's afraid of nature.
It's true. Roaches, wasps. You just have to open your doors more
Like,
and
why
live
is
with
nobody
nature.
saying they're afraid of the twin girls in The Shining?
Ew,
Sorry.
that movie is true. Someone said the wind.
The afraid of the wind? Oh,
Afraid
well,
of
I
the
guess if
wind.
it's howling and if the trees are
Like a
blowing and it's like,
hurricane,
yeah, that's definitely
tornadoes.
ominous.
Yeah.
Definitely feels ominous. Okay.
Someone said OBGYNs. There we go. That's what we're looking for.
Okay. No need to
Uh,
fear them. Just have
well,
an
some of
aversion
them,
if you do.
you might want to fear some of them, not all of them.
Just got to learn to manage them.
Mountain lions, legit, although they are beautiful. When my feet don't touch where I'm swimming, I get that.
Oh,
Dark
really?
water. Get that.
Okay.
No, I mean, actually,
In open natural waters, I get that. In a deep swimming pool, I don't get it at all. But in an open natural water, I totally understand that feeling. Yeah, because your imagination, there's more life under sea level than above, and most
yeah,
people
that
don't.
would bother me in the dark, not in
And
the
if you
day.
imagine all the life under sea level, there's so much more under sea level than above. It definitely can make you want to jump out of the water,
So
back into the boat.
that is probably my biggest like basic fear in life is the ocean at night. That really
Mhm.
scares me. I love the ocean. I spend a lot of time in the ocean. I'll swim anywhere. I'll swim with sharks, but not after dark.
I grew
No,
up going
thank
to
you.
the ocean in summers. I never swam in the ocean at night. I don't know how anybody can. I so admire the people who can.
I did it once, and it took a lot of bravery, but I got stung by a Portuguese man o' war one time swimming in the ocean, and I think that's where that fear came from. Okay, and then the best, a lot of them are just things like bees, snakes, underwater caves.
Underwater caves.
Who goes there? Who goes into underwater caves?
In
Bad
her
idea.
in her imagination, she does. It's a terrible place to be trapped. I guess that's what's going on.
Yes. Things that fly that are bigger than a fly and smaller than a bird. That's a lot of things that fly in that size range. I mean, some of them are really intense, so I'm just skipping over those.
Please.
Like burning alive, we're just going to skip that.
Okay. Yes, please.
Okay, but there's one that I can't find that we have to finish
Oh.
on. That I still remember that was hilarious. The car wash. A lot of people have that fear of the car wash.
Oh, do you know what I sort of have a fear of? I have a really good answer to this.
Great. Let's hear it.
I have a fear of walking down extraordinarily steep slopes. Because when
Really?
I was a child, yes, because you know the scene in The Princess Bride? Everyone does. Don't tell
Yes,
me.
yes, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
and they roll down the hill.
When she, yeah, yeah. That happened to me when I was 5 years old. My family was driving and we let the dog out. We had a Samoyed. We let the dog out of the car and my brothers and the dog went running down this steep hill. And I was like, always, my story of my childhood was like running with my brothers and being behind and running up. And I started running down the hill, and I don't know what happened. I was
You
just,
tripped.
oh no, I didn't trip at all. No, 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 no. No, I could feel myself losing, I could feel losing myself to gravity. I could feel that I was leaning forward and that gravity was pulling the upper part of my body forward while I was running down. And I didn't have the consciousness of like how to run to brace myself. They just ran because they were older and strong. They were really strong. And I was running and I just went bumping and bouncing all the way down the hill. And yeah, and I was once walking down a steep hill with my friend at Kripalu. And we parked our cars at like the top of a very steep hill, and you were supposed to walk the long way down, but she said, "Let's just walk down this way." She went down this steep hill. And one of my funniest memories is I started walking down with her and I just got scared halfway. And I was just standing halfway with my legs really far apart, bracing myself.
As if you were just going to suddenly start tumbling down the
Yes.
hill.
And I was afraid to take another step. And she walked out and looked back at me. She was like, what are you doing? And I was literally afraid to move. And all the cars were just slowly driving in and parking. And I was just standing there in front of everybody with my arms out and my legs wide open.
Did you just
Totally.
turn around and go back up, or what'd
No,
you
I was
do?
halfway down. I was completely stranded and I just froze. And
Well, where did you go from there?
I got my wits about me and I was like, you can do this. I just had to use the mental focus and I got myself out of it by getting down the hill, but it scares me. That's something that scares me.
Well, we will not go to San Francisco then.
Oh, I had no problem in San Francisco. That's not that bad. No, I'm
Really?
talking like I'm talking like a steep natural terrain that is unusually like things no one has any business walking down. I like where other humans are still comfortable, I lose my comfort level because I had a crazy experience with it when I was a kid. I tumbled down an entire long, very long hill. It was nuts.
Okay, and the best one of all, we
Oh,
have to, and the best one of all, someone said, anything that is small enough to suddenly crawl into my vagina.
what?
Well, yeah, I guess spiders would fall into that category.
Okay, that's a horrible thought. I think you
Yeah.
guys are all a little too creative. Just settle down, get your mind out of crawly things in the vagina and caves under the water. Just live
I mean,
among
that
the
is a
rest of
scary
us.
thought.
Yeah, if we get creative enough, we're going to freak ourselves out. This is great.
I
All
like the
because,
creativity amongst our community. I
all
thought that was
because you
great.
took a bath with a spider.
Yep, I did. And I don't know where it ended up. It did leave. And who
It
knows where it
probably
went.
ended up in your hair
Probably in my
somewhere.
bed.
Right.
All right, on to the questions.
Okay.
Hi, ladies. My name is Addie, and while I'm not currently pregnant or trying to conceive, I have been listening to your podcast for about 2.5 years, and my husband and I are planning to start a family in the spring of 2026. My question for you is, how do I navigate being the first in my family to have a home birth when I'm surrounded by negativity from both my family and his family? I've gotten to the point where I don't even bring it up, and I've set firm boundaries with anyone who has overstepped or given their criticism and thoughts when I wasn't asking. As an example of what I'm up against, my sister is a labor and delivery nurse who thinks home birth is the most dangerous thing someone can do. As a side note, she's currently pregnant and doesn't even know the difference between folic acid and methylated folate, even with me sending her the studies. And on my husband's side, everyone talks about pregnancy and birth as if it's the worst thing ever. I constantly hear about how they push for an early induction just to get the baby out and that they're over being fat. And that's not even counting my overbearing and intrusive mother-in-law who believes that she should be allowed to bond with grandkids through bottle feeding immediately. She did do this with other grandkids. Thank you in advance. Love the show.
Oh, I worry about women like this because no matter how strong she is, that is not going to be an easy family to have as in-laws when she has a baby. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think she should move.
Yeah, but it's the marriage. It's like you really do marry someone's family. And wow, first of all, the comment about fat, that's like, that's emotionally, that says so much about someone. If they talk about pregnancy as being fat, it's so negative. And then the mother-in-law having notions of how she's going to feed her grandchild. It's not going to be easy for her to be in
Nope.
that family.
Nope. But she's already taking the right steps. She is setting boundaries. That is obviously the first and most important thing to do. If that's not enough, I'm no joke about moving. Space creates a lot of protection from too much intrusion of family members if you need it. But I think she should keep her birth plans to herself.
Oh, for sure.
Just
Absolutely.
they don't need to know.
No, it's really everything else. It's how does her husband handle them? Because the thing that got me was she said she's already set boundaries and she's still giving a list of things that are coming up and how they are. So there's just, it's, yeah. So distance, yes. Boundaries, yes. Probably setting expectations beforehand, yes. And I think she'll have to invoke her husband for sure, not to be the intermediary. I don't believe in that. I don't think he should ever speak for her. I think he should speak for himself about the boundaries that they're seeking when they have their baby. And he should be the one to say, look, mom, we're not looking for advice on how to feed the baby. We're not doing bottle feeding. I mean, there's no reason he can't say that. I do think it would be a mistake if he speaks for his wife and says, well, she's feeling this way. And like, she doesn't really like when people do that. I think that's a big mistake and undermines her, but he should just handle it.
Well, that's another really important point. The two of them really have to be on the same page on all of these things because I completely agree that, he needs to come from his full confidence, full belief, full voice, and he's going to set those boundaries. She will set her own boundaries, but he needs to be like the iron wall.
Right. And then they can be like, you've never been the same since you met her. She changed
Oh,
you.
well. Oh, well.
I guess so. Our takeaway is she's already on top of it. She's already managing a difficult family or a family very much out of alignment with her and out of rapport with her as much as possible. So she can focus on what she can control. And I guess that's more on the marriage and on the marital boundaries and household boundaries.
What
Yeah.
I think is great about situations like this is you can just let the actions speak for themselves. You can just let your parenting style, your birth experience, your baby, your relationship speak for itself. You don't have to explain anything to your in-laws about why you don't want to introduce bottles in the beginning. You just do, and you let the actions speak for themselves.
It also said a lot that the sister in law works in the industry. So, the family is going to respect her opinion the most, but that this woman sent her information and research that her sister in law had no interest in. I just think that was just such an interesting detail. And am I surprised? No, but it says a lot. What it shows you is she shouldn't waste her time trying to educate them or at least show them her way of thinking. Not that she has to educate anyone, but at least to say, this is why we made this decision. I think that would be a mistake. Don't explain yourselves. That's, I think,
Right.
a big mistake people make.
If your information is falling on deaf ears, it's not worth your energy. If somebody's receptive and open, great, have the conversation. If they're not interested, just do and be who you are and don't explain yourself and don't justify.
Hello, this is Bella. I absolutely love your guys' show. I actually had a question related to breastfeeding. I was a major oversupplier with my first daughter. I quite literally filled up my deep freezers up 3 times on top of exclusively nursing my daughter. I'm not sure if it's something I maybe did in the early days of postpartum that caused the major oversupply or if it's maybe just genetics. But I am pregnant with my second daughter and I'm due in August. So I'm wondering if I'm going to have the same supply that I did with my first, or am I going to have a supply that's greater than I had with my first? I'm kind of scared to see how much of a big supply I'm going to have the second time around. I always hear that your supply with your second baby is always more than with your first. So I'm just kind of anxious to see, but just want to see your guys' comments on that. Thank you.
Well, I really wish I could get a little bit more information from her and ask her how she was collecting this milk that she filled her freezer with. Because the thing is about oversupply, if you are overproducing milk initially and you feel the need to relieve your breast with some other form of relief other than your baby, so that could be a haka, that could be a milk collector, that could be a hand pump, or that could be a pump. Or it could even just be your hand. I hear women all the time say, I was just collecting the milk that was dripping. But anything that you are actually putting on your breast to collect milk is actually stimulating more milk production. So you can't really maintain an oversupply unless you are collecting the milk. You have to stop collecting the milk and then your supply will regulate to the baby. So if you're exclusively feeding the baby at the breast and you're not doing any other form of milk collection, if all your milk is going into your baby, you don't have an oversupply. If you're storing milk, you're perpetuating an oversupply. So I'd just be really curious to know what she was doing that she didn't feel that her oversupply had anything to do with what she was doing, but somewhere it had to. And this is a really common misunderstanding that women have. So yes, with her next baby, she will start off with a really abundant milk production. That's just how it works. If you made a lot of milk the first time, the second time you have a baby, the milk comes in oftentimes even a little bit more abundantly or at least faster. Your body will adjust to your baby if you just give it time and you just give the milk to the baby. If you need to help slow it down a little bit, you can use cold compresses, you can do peppermint tea. And most of it's just time. I mean, sometimes it is a little too much for the baby in the first 2 weeks before your breasts start to settle, but between 3 and 6 weeks, the supply will level off to the demand of the baby if you're not doing anything extra. And it can be really hard for these moms who produce a ton of milk to allow that to happen because they feel so uncomfortably full, and the relief is so relieving when you feel full to get some of that milk out. But if you keep getting the milk out, you're going to keep making the extra milk.
So they basically just have to do nothing but endure it until it all adjusts.
Well, you can use cold compresses. You can
Right.
do
Does that really
peppermint
help?
tea. Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
they do.
It dramatically helps. 2 to 3 cups a day of peppermint tea can slow things down really quickly. Cold compresses on your breast in between all feeds. It's hard for oversupply to perpetuate through that, again, unless you're doing something to keep removing the milk. Not your baby feeding. Your baby feeding is okay.
Hi, ladies. I'm a big fan of the podcast. I had my first baby last year, and I actually just had a couple of questions regarding that birth. I'm pregnant with my second, so I'm curious how things are going to go. I birthed in a hospital with a midwife, and she kind of used a technique so that I could feel where to push properly. She just kind of inserted her fingers. This was not a cervical check. I ended up getting the epidural, unfortunately, and so I couldn't feel a contraction. I was 10 centimeters dilated, and she said, let's start pushing. So we would just watch the contractions on the monitor, and they would tell me to push, and we all tried pushing. I ended up pushing for 4 hours. After 2 hours, they did administer Pitocin. My question is, like I said, she used this technique where she kind of inserted her fingers to help me feel where to push, but she did that continuously. I don't even know how many times, but a lot through that 4 hours. I was very swollen after. Basically, I'm wondering, just like you mentioned about cervical checks being a risk for infection, that's obviously also a risk. If you could give some more information about what that technique is and if it was overused or if it was kind of necessary to be continuously doing that over the 4 hours, I'd love to hear more information. And my second part of the question, I did test positive for GBS. So I did agree to the antibiotics as a first-time mom, although I've listened to your podcast and I know there's a very low risk, of everything happening like that. But my question is, I find afterward in my chart that they just continuously through the IV gave me rounds and rounds of antibiotics during my whole time there, which was over 24 hours in the hospital. So my second part of the question would be, is it possible or is it effective to just agree to one round, I believe it's 4 hours of antibiotics, and then disconnecting myself from the IV pole, but still leaving that port in? And what are the benefits of the continuous antibiotics? And I guess what are the risks if I were to have stopped after just one bag or one round of antibiotics? Thank you so much, ladies. Bye-bye.
This technique of the hands inside of her while she's in the pushing stage, is this actually a technique? It sounds terrible to me. So can you talk about that?
Yes, I've seen this routinely and commonly done in hospital birth, especially if a woman has an epidural, because oftentimes when a woman has an epidural, they're not feeling that natural expulsive reflex.
Right.
They're not feeling those urges to push with the body. So providers will use their hands to press on the back side, the back wall of the vagina, which actually stimulates the reflex called the Ferguson reflex, to help her feel where to push and how to push and feel that urge to push more. Whether it's effective or not, I can't say. Certainly if it's happening and the woman says, oh, that feels that feels good and I feel like I know what I'm doing and she feels like she has more awareness of how to push effectively, then fine. If she's having a physiologic birth, I wouldn't do that at all. But sometimes with an epidural birth, they might need a little bit of support. But if that was not comfortable to her, or she wasn't really aware of what was going on, then absolutely not. That's something that is something that requires proper informed consent, and the provider should be checking in with her and saying, is this helpful or not? Is this helpful or not? Because having your hands in the vagina during birth is not, that's not ideal, and it does increase the risk of infection.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled to hear that they were giving her Pitocin for the second stage of labor. It just shows how one intervention always leads to another. Now that she has an epidural and she's on her back, she's lost that. Because the best thing about having, I don't even want to say a physiologic birth because that implies so many other benefits, but the best thing about not having an epidural is you have communication from your baby. But it was never supposed to come with this other package of like, oh, and now we're going to have our hands in your vagina. Like, did you want an epidural still? Because this is what we're going to do. Yes, electronic fetal monitoring to manage the risk of the epidural, but to have their hands inside of her and then to give her Pitocin because she's on her back, it's already less productive. Epidurals notoriously slow labor. So there's no surprise there. And there shouldn't be any rush on women who have an epidural because it's going to slow their labor. There's some research out there on giving Pitocin in the second stage of labor, and it shows that it minimally shortens the second stage of labor. It was something like from about 150 minutes, which is already a long time. That's like 2.5 hours already, because I guess they had women on their backs, probably with epidurals to begin with, to about 135-ish minutes or something like that. It was a difference of about 15 minutes. However, there was a significant increase in the use of rotational forceps. So, Trisha, rotational forceps, does that not imply that these babies who had Pitocin in the second stage had a much higher risk of a malpositioned baby?
Right, meaning that they're using the forceps to change the position of the baby to help the baby come out. I mean,
It just goes to show one thing always leads to another. It's like, oh, yay, the Pitocin did speed up the second stage a little bit. But yeah, the baby is not coming down, working out the position that that baby needs to be in because there's this rush to like push the baby out. One thing is always connected to another. That's the hardest thing for anyone to understand and conceptualize when they're making a decision about an intervention. We have no idea about the downstream effects.
it's also a great example of how difficult it is for providers to just sit back and let it happen. I mean, what if we never put our hands in her vagina and didn't help her push, and the birth of the second stage process took 2 more hours? Oh, well, if the baby's okay and the mom is okay, what's the big deal? So it is a lot about just this need to rush second stage. Nobody wants second stage to take more than an hour or two, three at the most, because, now we're getting worried about the baby having a bad episode or the baby getting stuck at the shoulders. So we're always in a hurry to move things along, which is why they're doing Pitocin and why they're using their hands to help her push. We know that sometimes the length of pushing can go on for 6 or 8 or 10 hours. I'm not saying that that's ideal or that's what we're looking for, but providers get very nervous when pushing stages are taking too long and they want to be actively in there doing something to expedite the process, whether that's giving Pitocin, using their hands to help her push, or using a vacuum or a forcep to expedite second stage. So as for the second part of her question about antibiotics in labor and GBS, what we know from the research is that in order for the GBS treatment to actually be effective in the way that we need it to be, you're supposed to have 2 doses 4 hours apart. So it would be normal for her to get a second dose. And if she only got 1 dose, a lot of these women who are getting 1 dose are not necessarily having the protection against GBS anyway. I think we should just explain what's normal, and maybe this will help clarify. So according to the GBS protocol, in order for the antibiotics to truly be effective at preventing GBS infection in the newborn, which is what we're trying to prevent, you need 2 doses of the antibiotics 4 hours apart. Now, if you're still in labor longer than that, you would continue to get antibiotics because the antibiotics wear off and the GBS, in theory, can come back. Now, I don't know that we really have great data on what happens if you give 2 doses and then a woman's in labor for 24 more hours and you stop, what that risk is for the baby. But this is the protocol. You're on the antibiotics the entire time you're in labor. Now, if they were still giving her antibiotics after her baby was born, that would not make sense. So she didn't really specify. She said for the full 24 hours that I was there. I don't know. I'm thinking she meant the entire time she was in labor.
Okay, well, that's a wrap for the regular part of today's Q&A episode. In the extended, we have a couple of questions about HBAC, VBAC moms. We have one mom planning a home birth after cesarean section who wants to know how to best conserve energy to combat the risk of maternal exhaustion, which is a top reason for transfer from home birth. So very interesting and good question. Next one is from a VBAC mom who did transfer the first time around from home to hospital and believes her baby never descended. And now she's concerned about whether that could happen again. But we hear her story and you'll hear our comments about what we think might have happened the first time. And there is a current rumor or debate that water birthing is no longer safe, that it's an intervention and therefore it's not good for baby. And we're going to talk about that. One woman called in about it. And I did talk to Barbara Harper last night, and I will relay her response to this. And finally, one mom is asking the ever-present question of whether it is okay to sleep on her back in pregnancy. To join our extended, you just have to be a member of any tier with us on Patreon or be an Apple subscriber of our podcast. And if you're with us, let's get into those questions now. And otherwise, it's time for quickies.
People love quickies. I posted these just very last minute. Whatever they are, we have to answer them. We don't get to screen them. We're just going to answer the first 8. So are you ready?
I'm ready. I didn't realize we did 8. I thought sometimes we did more than 8. I guess we'll just see how it goes.
I just picked a random number. Okay, well, we're going to start with this one because this is number 1. Who do you recommend for hypnobirthing? If I missed the July class, I'm due in December.
Me.
There's only one person we recommend for a hypnobirthing course. That's the quickie answer. Your class is the best hypnobirthing class. So there we go.
And you can take it any time of the year. Just contact me.
Midwife pressing on the perineum during pushing. Does it help with tearing? Well, a warm compress on the perineum may help reduce tearing. Yes, that is evidence-based to potentially reduce tearing. Pressing on the perineum, I'm not sure if she's talking about warm compress and support or pressing down on the perineum. Sometimes I see, providers will do that, pulling and pressing down on the perineum. That I would not say is helpful. Does your cycle length affect your baby's gestation? Absolutely.
By a number of days.
By a number of days.
Right. So it's like if she has a longer cycle, let me make sure I'm understanding this. So if she has a longer cycle, let's say a 31-day cycle, then her gestate should be considered 3 days longer than what it otherwise would be calculated as.
What did you say? How many day cycle?
31.
31. So yes, 3 extra days.
Okay.
So it's 266 days from conception. And if you ovulate late, then if you ovulate 3 days past day 14, then you add 3 days. So now you'd be at 269 days. But again, we're too technical on this.
And is that average length of her period, like the average over the previous year or two? Or is that because you don't know exactly for the month you conceived when you ovulated? So do they just take her average time?
Yeah, that's why this whole thing is.
Oh, that really is
kind of silly.
Pretty useless.
Right. I mean, if you really consistently have a 35-day cycle, then you should factor that into your due date. But
if it's consistent, but it probably isn't consistent. So the whole thing is we don't know exactly when she ovulated the month she conceived. And that's really the extra days you would be adding on if you knew it. All right. Interesting.
Do breast reductions impact breastfeeding? Yes, they can, because you're removing breast tissue. We're removing milk-making tissue, and you are interfering with the nerves. And so the nerves don't always fully heal. And so you can have decreased nerve stimulation, which sends the oxytocin to the brain. So yes, it can.
See that I'm sure you don't want me to talk about it right now, but that response leads to questions for me. Because I know small-breasted women can produce milk just as well as large-breasted women. Of course, I would expect a breast reduction could affect breastfeeding. There's no question about that. But I mean, it almost seems to imply that a large-breasted woman has more milk-making capability, but it doesn't work that way, right?
Well, her body is designed the way her body is designed. And if you remove some of her milk-making cells, then it may impact. But I think the nerve function has a lot to do with it.
Okay.
Favorite podcast not birth-related?
Oh, my goodness.
Give me one. First one that comes to mind.
I'll go with Move Your DNA with Katie Bowman.
There you go.
I've learned a ton from her.
That's about just moving your body.
She's a
Like
body
the
mechanist. It
action.
is way more than that. It's riveting. Like she is absolutely like the intellect about how all the cells in your body work, even the impact of bras holding your breasts. Like
Oh,
you learn
cool.
things listening to her that are just so fascinating. Yeah. And she
Will
had
you
home
please?
births. Like she, for example, has no chairs in her entire home with her husband and kids. Like
Wow.
no chairs. Like she's really fast. She's been on Joe Rogan and she had
You
home
gotta,
births. I'd love to get her on the podcast because
that would be amazing.
I think
And
she's
please send
so
me an
interesting.
episode.
She's published like 12 books. She's just, she's really fascinating. A Rolfer during a session recommended her to me years ago, and I'm still listening.
Awesome. I want to listen. That sounds
Hmm.
great. I would love
Hmm.
that. Um, Probably the podcast I listen to the most regularly these days is Culture Apothecary with
Oh, okay.
Alex.
Sounds
And
like fun.
she just brings on so many interesting guests.
Okay.
I like who she interviews. So yeah, okay. Should I be worried about a posterior baby at 33 weeks?
No, of course not. You really can't do a whole heck of a lot about it for one, so don't worry about it. Two, the baby can change position for sure. Three, even if the baby is posterior, the baby can turn on the way out. And four, the baby can be born posterior.
All good reasons. I will say one thing, if your baby is posterior, don't worry about it, but there is something you can do about it, and you need to get on your hands and knees more and get out of the chair. People who are sitting in desks and or long commutes or sitting a lot are going to be more prone to this. So you got to get forward leaning. What can help with my pushing stage next time? I pushed for 6 hours and now I'm nervous.
Well, we don't know the conditions around the position she was in, the position her baby was in. We don't know enough.
You have to
What?
know that the second time pushing is going to be faster. It's just a mechanical, like, certainty. Unless, yeah, it's pretty much a certainty. Once a baby has been through your vagina once, it's going to come through faster the second time.
Try your hands and knees. When in doubt, hands and knees. It's comfortable. It helps with fetal positioning. Just give that a shot.
Was that eight?
Oh, I don't know. I
I
wasn't
wasn't
counting.
counting. Okay. All right. Last one. What do your kids think of your work? Mine don't talk about it too much.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that.
I think my kids have a lot of respect for the work, and
I
then
was just going to say that they have a lot of respect.
yeah, and
They
then there's a little part of them that's like, ooh, that's weird. You know,
I don't
talking
have
about
that
birth.
for my kids. My daughter gets very excited if a teacher is pregnant and she'll recommend the podcast or the teacher's already listening to the podcast. That's really fun for my daughter. And my son has so much respect for me and so much in common with me about really caring about natural health. So we just have a lot in common and he knows we interview super cool people and learn a lot all the time. And I think it's pretty cool. They definitely tell their friends about it, but they really also don't think it's a big deal because everything any child is used to is not a big deal.
My son's favorite part is that we're sponsored by Element. He thinks that that is awesome, and he loves to share that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Element is great too. So,
You know, Billy Elliot is one of my favorite movies, and there's a very endearing line in it. His mother died when he was very young, and he's with his ballet teacher, and he talked about his mom briefly at one point. And actually, they read a letter that the mom had written, and and the instructor said, "She sounds like a very special lady, your mom," because that's their accent. And how, I don't know. She said, "She sounds like a very special lady." And Billy says, "No, she was just me mom." And I think it's just such a precious response.
mhm.
I just feel like that's how it's supposed to be. They're just
Yeah,
supposed to be your mom.
that's kind of like saying that's what I expect of my mom. Like she's
Well,
just
yeah. And also, it was his way of saying, like, not everyone has to be special, special, special. Like, she was special simply because she was his mother. She didn't have to be, oh,
right.
yes, my mother was amazing. She was, it was just like, no, she was just my mom. But what's more precious than that? I mean, it's a very endearing moment of among many in that movie. Amazing movie. Okay.
Okay, last one is favorite item in your home.
Come on. I hate questions like that.
What just comes to your mind? Because something came to my mind immediately. And it might not be my favorite thing, but it's clearly at the top of the list, near the top of the list.
If we're talking about something that is not sentimental, because I would go on and on if I were telling you special sentimental things. Something I bought. I have 2 identical hanging light fixtures that I love as much as I loved the day I bought them. They're gorgeous. They're shaped like globes and they're crystal, and they have like, they're wrought iron, and the crystal is almost in the form of not quite leaves, but they form globes, and they're just beautiful. And when they're on at night, they cast these beautiful, the way the light hits the walls around them. Anyway, those are my 2 favorite things.
Now we need to see a picture of them on Instagram, because
Sure.
I can't even picture what those are, and I've been in your house many times.
They're so beautiful. Yeah, they're up the staircases. So if you go up the first and go up the second, they're above each staircase. Yeah, I just think they're so beautiful. Okay, that was that of store-bought things. I thought of several things, but I decided to go with my light fixtures because I love them. What did you think of?
The first thing that came to mind is my fireplace.
Oh, yeah, of course. And you use it so much.
Spend a lot of time here.
And when I was at your house the other day, a bird flew down the chimney and into the room with us. So that was a very special fireplace, which really freaked us out for a while. Birds just fly right into your home, not from all your open windows, but right down the fireplace.
Yes, they're called chimney sweeps, and they live in my chimney.
Okay. It was fun recording you. I recorded you trying to get it out of the house. I didn't share that yet. I got to share that when we put this episode out. I should share that video.
Okay, yeah.